I'm bothered that it has gotten to a stage where the wealthy, the rich ones that are not even in politics are getting assassinated. Yeah, Soludo was attacked weeks back. And you'll be surprised that despite the fact that election is quite close, nobody's campaigning there. Some of them are campaigning in Lagos and neighboring states. Going forward, when Southern Kaduna was attacked, we shout at El Rufai. When the toll gate, when the military visited the toll gate during the NSAS, exactly a year ago, we called out Sanwo-Olu. We need to call out our state governors. By virtue of the Constitution, they're the #1 chief security officer of the state. They have funds.
So now, Femi, sorry, I want to streamline this conversation down to the educational system. Now, the fact that there's a seat at home in Anambra State or the southeastern states now, and they are trying to improvise by making Saturday a normal school day, which normally is not supposed to be. It's not a norm. So I'm looking at the insecurity in the state and the effects of it on education, the educational system in the southeastern states.
To narrow down my conversation, I'll still say that I want to re-emphasize that the traditional leaders, state governors, are stakeholders as far as this is concerned. 2, let me say categorically that where education is actually, I'm sad to say that Nigeria has not even gotten to that stage where we allocate the right percentage of money in our budget for education. Nigeria has not gotten to that stage where even if education is free, quote and unquote, not everyone has access to quality education. Now, depriving certain people access to whatever kind of education we have at the moment is only worsening the future going forward. What do I expect the state governor to do? I'm sad that they had to choose Saturday. I need to be very. It's a victim kind of mentality. It's an acceptance that we really cannot do anything about these guys, or it's a solidarity that to an extent you guys are fighting for what we would have probably do if we're not in government, but let's create an avenue to allow you do your thing and let's still do our own without affecting each other, rather than actually take the bull by the horn. What are the implications, if you will allow me? What are the implications? These guys will grow stronger and will leave the educational sector and penetrate into another sector. Now, market days, they will change market days. There will be an announcement. Maybe, like here in the Southwest, we'll probably have market days probably every 4 days or something. You will now find out that market days will change. You will now find out that probably they will tell you that banks should probably open only on Saturdays and Sundays. They will extend to other sectors. That's my fear. That's my fear right now. So those are the implications. What would I expect them to do? I've said it. The governor must create a stakeholders meeting with traditional leaders. Traditional leaders have to call to order these guys in their locality. See, this thing you're doing will not affect the federal government. It will affect our own children. Let's find a way around the table.
But the traditional rulers you're talking about are afraid of their lives too.
I agree with you. And it has gotten to this stage because most of them have refused to take a stand before now. Yes, that's the only reason. They refuse to take a stand before now. And it's too late to cry when the head is off. However, the solutions are quite difficult, I won't lie to you. Because we may start looking at state of emergency, which is a difficult option.
No, but worse things had happened in other parts of the land, especially the northern part of the country, and there was no state of emergency. So why is that of Anambra State going to be different?
Let me take you up on that. Look at this critical moment. One, they don't want election to hold.
Yeah,
They
threatened that if Kanu is not released unconditionally, the election won't hold.
And Dasuki was locked up for years. Elections held. So there are facts that if we juxtapose them, you understand that what is happening right now in the South is peculiar. And the reason why it has degenerated to this level is because, see, when Northerners are picked up, their elders fold their arms because they expect that whoever is wrong should be dealt with. But we have a region where that is when they either keep quiet or probably show solidarity. And when it now comes back to haunt them, they now go back and talk against the government for not doing their role. So that's why I said, looking at a state of emergency in the northern states and now, the situation may look similar, but actually the factors that led to what led to these things are not actually similar. That's clarifying your thoughts. Going forward, like I said, we may have to swallow the humble pie and go for a state of emergency. However, if they don't want that, the way forward, traditional rulers have to speak up. That's the only way.
Like for me, you earlier mentioned that it's either what's happening in Anambra State, either they are in solidarity or they've accepted the norm. But I'm looking at it from the angle of the government. While, just my thoughts, while trying to work on ensuring lives and properties of the citizens of Anambra State, they are still trying to make education possible. And the commentary I read, in order to ensure safety of pupils and teachers, as well as stakeholders. So rather than just fight and fight and fight, they could be doing a background fight, and why they still want these students to go to school. I'm not seeing it from that angle, because you have to first ensure the lives of your children before you can fight and fight. Why in the midst of the fight, your children are killed? So rather than make them stay at home or force them to go to school on the days that they said sit at home, you're trying to make more like improvisation and make it work. Don't you think so?
Now let me say this. I, to an extent, agree with the intentions of Nnamdi Kanu. My problem is how he's going about it. I need to be very frank about this. I, to an extent, agree with the intentions of the agitators from the Southwest also. I'm only angry with the way they're going about it.
Not secession right now. Are you saying you agree with the secessionist moves?
I agree with the fact that they want an all-inclusive government. They want resource control. If you look in depth into what they are actually asking for, see, I'm not that kind of analyst that will want to paint some people black because I want my region to feel comfortable. Honestly, within every of whatever crisis that has mopped up, there's real and definite agitations. But you know, when those things are not well solved, other things begin to come up, and it gets a political coloration, as it has gotten right now. So, but let me say this. I said initially that there's a need to be very high on logic and low on emotions. And that is where most of them actually failed. Very high on emotions and quite low on logic. Now, why do I say this? You want the freedom for your people. One, you still have representatives in the House of Assembly. You have representatives in the Senate. You have representatives in the House of Representatives. They are still being paid. They participate. You have governors. They go to Abuja to collect their share of the national cake monthly. See, that we should not, if you really do not want things, then you should start from the stakeholders that are still participating. Why can't most of these stakeholders sit back for 1 month? That is when we will take them serious. That is even when the government will say, see, they have not told themselves the truth.
So you mean they are not living up to expectations?
They are not. Logically, they are not solving these issues. They are only very high on emotions. How will you have somebody from your region that is the minority leader in the Senate, and none of these issues has been raised? We have constitutional ways of raising agitations. It is.
And now it's time for